Hello children. Now we shall discuss about how the cells are discovered in our daily life in onion cells, or what are the different components of the cell. How are they involved in our life processes? Let us see. There are different kinds of organisms, right? We have seen in the previous slide that single celled organisms as well as so each living cell has a heart needs blood all the time to pump the blood to different each and every cell of a body. Like also digestion of food is done by the stomach. Each cell contains certain specific components within it is known as the cell organelles. Each and every cell will have specific components called as cell organelles. They are called as cell organelles. Each kind of cell organelle performs a special function. So everything is a specific, particular. For example, if you see a company or an organization, there will be a manager, a general manager, labor, clerks, all these will be there. For example, in our school, principal, vice principal, or coordinators, teachers, right? And office people, all will be there. In the same way, there are different components for a smooth functioning of that particular cell. Each will have different works they have assigned for, such as making new material in the cell, clearing up the waste material from the cell. Everything will take place. So, type of organisms. Each cell contains certain specific components within it known as cell organelles. They are called as cell organelles. We have seen each kind of cell organelle, such waste material. For example, if you see chloroplast, where it is studied in your class, so it will takes place through photosynthesis because of the pigment called as chloroplast. Chloroplast, which is green in color, it is present in the leaves. So leaves synthesize food material in the form of carbohydrates by the utilization of the sunlight. Next, mitochondria. Mitochondria is a what is the function of mitochondria? They are called as powerhouses of the cell. They oxidize the food material which goes inside, and they are also called as powerhouses of the cell. Different organisms have different shapes. It is due to change in the shape of the cells, right? Amoeba keeps on changing its shape due to presence of pseudopodia. We have discussed here. Uh, Generally, cells are round, spherical, or elongated. Some cells are long and pointed at both the ends. Size of the cell. The size of the cell living organisms may be very minute, which is called naked eye, or of large as object. If you see the picture, you can clearly see the ostrich egg. And the cell of a bacteria cannot be seen through naked eye. So the largest cell is 170 millimeters. What is a cell made up of? You might wonder what it is made up of. While studying the cell under a microscope, you will find three common features in almost every cell: plasma membrane, nucleus, and cytoplasm. If you see the structure of the cell, the middle structure called as a nucleus, and the matrix like jelly-like substance which is present inside the cell is cytoplasm, and the covering substance is plasma membrane. What is plasma membrane? It was cell. Plasma membrane is nothing but the is surrounded by outermost covering that separates the contents of the cell from its external environment. Right? There should be some covering so that it can cover outside of the cell as well as the inside particles. That is called as a plasma membrane. The plasma membrane allows or permits only few materials that are allowed, which allows it will not allow all the particles inside it. It is a semi-permeable membrane actually, or it can also be called as a selectively permeable membrane, that is plasma membrane. So if you see the structure of the plasma membrane, it is like this. It contains of phospholipid protein structures like this, and it is a bilipid layer. These are all proteins, and it is bilipid layer. It also prevents movement of some other materials. It doesn't allow any material unnecessarily inside it, only selectively permitted membranes. For example, functions of plasma membrane, unicellular freshwater organisms and most plant cells tend to gain water through osmosis, right? Because they live in water all the time. Because by the osmosis, much of the water comes inside. So what will happen finally? The water holding capacity of that cell increases, and at particular point it becomes saturated. So what will happen? Finally, it gets burst. Absorption of water, it should not happen. That is why burst of the cell should not happen. That is why the plasma membrane is a selectively permeable membrane. Absorption of water by plant roots is also an example of osmosis. Plant root, because plant keeps on taking the water to roots. So what is the function of the roots? Taking up water as well as minerals. Thus, diffusion is an important in exchange of gases and water in the life of a cell. Osmosis through water. Through osmosis process, water is being taken, and through diffusion, water gaseous exchange takes place through the roots of the plants. If you see, you can see the only particular ion is coming inside of the cell. It is very selectively permeable membrane. Next, what is a cell wall? You might have wondered by what is a plasma membrane. And now let us see what is a cell wall. This cell wall is present only in plant cells, remember. These plant cells have another rigid outer covering called the cell wall that is present outside the plasma membrane. But in animals, this cell wall is absent. Only in plant cells is the present that is present lies outside the plasma membrane. This is called as a cell wall, which is a plant cell. This is plasma membrane and this is cell. This is cell wall. If you see clearly, you can see this outer covering is called as cell wall, whereas just before that there is a plasma membrane. And the plant cell wall is mainly composed of cellulose. Cellulose is a material which is present in cell wall. Cellulose is a complex substance and provides structural strength to plants. Cellulose is a complex substance and they provide structural strength basically to plants. This is called cellulose, which provides structural strength. What are the functions of the cell wall? And the basic function of the cell wall is, which is present in the plants, is provide rigidity as well as the strength to plants, and also permits the cells of plants, fungi, and bacteria to withstand very dilute external media without bursting by building up pressure in it. So at times, what will happen to a very dilute external media? For example, much water is present outside this cell. So what it tends to do, it from diluted solution, it may come inside of the cell, and afterwards, finally, what will happen due to endosmosis? The cell gets burst up after its saturated point is done. So without bursting up by building up a pressure against it, what this cell wall will do? Cell wall will create some pressure inside it, which will build some pressure inside it to uh, to deny this osmosis or to deny this bursting process. This is the main function of the cell wall. Cell wall gives rigidity as well as strength. and cell wall where it is present only in plant cells. And where it is located exactly? It is located above the plasma membrane. And what it is made up of? Cellulose. Because of this cellulose, it gives rigidity and strength to the cell. Now we have seen till plasma membrane, components of cell. Plasma membrane, cell membrane, and let us see the cytoplasm which is present inside the cell. The cytoplasm is the fluid content. See, this is the cell and this is the fluid jelly-like substance called as cytoplasm. Many special, each of these organelles and all the cell organelles are suspended in this cytoplasm. What are the functions of the cytoplasm? In cytoplasm, all cell organelles are embedded at particular positions. So this cytoplasm is a jelly-like substance. Nucleus. You might have seen the nucleus also, which is present in the middle. The nucleus is a double-layered membrane called as, and it has a membrane called nuclear membrane. The nuclear membrane has pores which allows the transfer of material from inside the nucleus to its outside. See how the materials are being transferred from inside to outside. And there are specific organelles called as chromosomes. Chromosomes are components which are being inherited from parents to offsprings. These are present inside the nucleus. So on these chromosomes, there are genes, genes, genes structures. These genes are being transferred to the offsprings. You might wonder, we take some characteristics or inheritance characteristics or genes from our parents. So that is why our features will be similar to our parents. So chromosomes contain information for inheritance of features from parents to the next generation in the form of DNA. DNA is being transferred from parents to the offsprings. I mean next generation. This is chromosome and this is nucleus. Nucleus is a double-layered membrane that is called as nuclear membrane. Chromosomes are composed of DNA and protein. And the functional segments of DNA are called as genes. As I said, whenever the cell is about to divide, the chromatin material gets divided and further it goes to the next generation. What is nucleus? In some organisms like bacteria, this is bacteria, bacillus bacteria, rod-shaped bacteria, this is called as, that is why it is rod-shaped, it looks like a rod. The nuclear region of a cell may be poorly defined due to the absence of nuclear membrane. There is no nuclear membrane. These organisms are called as prokaryotes. Pro means ancient. Prokaryotes are called as ancient organisms. Organisms with cells having a nuclear membranes are called as eukaryotes. Eukaryotes means true. Eu means true cells which have nuclear membrane. For example, human being is a eukaryote, whereas bacteria is a prokaryote. What is the main difference between prokaryote and eukaryote? Prokaryote will not have nuclear membrane, whereas eukaryote will have a distinct nuclear membrane. Functions of nucleus. The nucleus plays a central role in cellular reproduction, the process by which a single cell divides and forms two new cells. It also regulates the cellular activities. The nucleus is called as the brain of the cell. So that is why each and every activity will be under the control of this nucleus. The nucleus plays a central role in cellular reproduction as well. This is the nucleus which is present inside in the central part. The violet color structure is called as a nucleus. So this is the chromosomes which are being transferred from one generation to another generation. Next comes to vacuoles. What are vacuoles? Or storage sacs for solid or liquid components. In animal cells, the size of vacuoles is small, whereas in plant cells, they have large vacuoles. The central vacuole of some plant cells may occupy 50 to 90% of the cell volume. So vacuoles in animal cells very small. Actually, the size of vacuoles may be absent at times, But in plants, the size of the vacuoles is very large. They have large distinct vacuoles. They are nothing but the empty spaces for the storage of food. They are also called as storage sacs. See, if you see, this is plant cell. Plant cell have large vacuole. Right side one is plant cell, which has large vacuole, whereas the left one is animal cell, which has a very small vacuole. Which has very small vacuole. In plant cells, vacuoles are full of cell sap and provide turgidity and rigidity to the cell. So, what is the main function of vacuoles? It stores food as well as it provides turgidity. What is meant by turgidity? The cell is composed of water jelly-like substance, right? It should not undergo any blasts. That is, which gives that blast structure is turgidity. Turgidity means it should be turgid and rigid as well. So many important substances for life are stored in vacuoles. Like we said, food particles are also stored in vacuoles. These include amino acids, sugars, various organic acids, and some proteins also. Many things. So these are the different structures of these are the different cell organelles which are present inside the cell which have different way or varied functions according to the conditions. Either it is a single celled organism or multicellular organism and the differences between plant cell and animal cell. Thank you.